government here. Well, it does occur. It occurs by design and within the law, and that's Louisiana reality, and she needs to know that. As for the permit itself, it says that they're going to be taking in plastic. I want that stricken from the permit, because if they're going to recycle plastic, they're going to have to heat it up. They're going to have to re-release the same chemicals that were released in production. And since we're making so much plastic around here already, I don't want them to bring it back to me again and heat it up again. I don't want them to have a boiler. If they say they're going to blend, like Darryl says, I want them to blend. I don't want them to burn. So they don't need a boiler. It says that shipping waste out of state means that it will be totally destroyed. Shipping waste out of state means it will be totally out of sight, not totally destroyed. I also want all of the tanks to be above ground, and that's, I don't want this permit, but you know I'm getting to that. I'm just correcting this permit. I want all of the tanks to be above ground. I don't want any of them sitting on the ground. I also don't want them to be allowed any storage area for a frickin' year. I mean, what we have here is the potential for a shell game. You just bring it from facility to facility to facility. I mean, it could go on for 10 years. It might have the same batch just going all over the country. It also says that if the lab analysis differs from the shipping manifest, that the material will be refused and returned to the shipper. Heck, make them wait. Make the truck driver hang out. If it doesn't match, send it with him right then. Don't let him keep it. IT questions. They spent about a page and a half insulting our intelligence, trying to justify a list. First list was 32 pages. Then they didn't cover enough waste that they wanted to handle in that. They did another 11 pages to cover whatever they left out the first list. They to save paper. A list of what they're not going to take in might be shorter than the list of what they're planning on taking in. And the list ought to not be, and they use the word might, it ought not be what they might take in, it ought to be what you allow them to take in. Anyway, I found it insulting. And this is another thing that I believe Mr. Hardy brought up. I tell you, Mr. Hardy, and there's a big age difference. I was going to go ahead and propose to you, because at the microphone, because we're of like minds, but I found out you were married and married to Miss Effie, so I can't do it. But I'm very insulted. It says, this grouping of homes downriver from the site has less than 30 permanent residents, or less than the plant's initial work population. How elitist, how dare you compare them to people who are not even at this plant yet. I was very insulted by this. What are the possible effects on property values? SFI is real progressive. They're looking ahead, not behind. In that, they're admitting that they will draw more like industries that are like themselves. They're admitting that the land will have to be reclassified as industrial. This is not the intent of IT. The intent of IT was that we look backwards and go to the people who are already there. It's their property values. It's the zoning from when they moved there, not having it changed to more people like you. Describe the reliability of technology chosen, past experiences. There are no facilities in operation that model all the aspects of SFI's proposed facility. They admitted that there wasn't anything else like them, but then they said that because the combination of technologies used in the design and construction in different plants all over the country, it was going to work. I mean, it's like a whole page. Why didn't it just say past experiences? We have none with this design. What about a little truth in advertising? I also had trouble with the same thing that Mr. Hardy had trouble with. The closest home was a half a mile from the center of the site. Well, I mean, heck, if the site is 2-3 miles, I mean, we got a big difference here. Could be at people's back door. On page 40, it's talking about the destruction efficiency of cement kilns. I would strongly encourage DEQ and the EPA to go back to that Honru hearing we had in March of '93. There was a gentleman there and I cannot remember his name, but he lived, or either he was testifying about a town that had 4 cement kilns in it. And I was horrified by his statements. I mean, he was talking about the air quality, and he was talking about the health problems. And I think his testimony would be in direct conflict to the information that's on page 40. The blue binder states that we'll have 40 extra tons of chemicals in the air. It's 40 too many. I mean, you people could come in with 1 extra ton and we would still say no, because the situation is extreme over here, and we don't even want 1 extra ton. Before I get to my little closing thing, how am I for time?
You got, you're at 7:55. So
All right. This little sheet of paper
2 minutes.
Explains, it goes from, it's an ownership transfer thing. Nordics, a Delaware corporation, Lloyd Hansen, president, mailing address, Memphis, Tennessee, is going to, it's selling something to Supplemental Fuels, a Delaware corporation, Lloyd Hansen, president, Memphis, Tennessee. It's the same information, it's just a different tax ID. Same address. Is something incestuous about this. It bothers me that somebody's going to buy something from himself. It makes me nervous. And if we're going to believe the man that talked earlier about the great record that Nordics had, if that's true, it's going to stay good, because now we're going to have Supplemental Fuels, and theirs isn't going to be that way. And who else is in this building? I mean, if you two are both in this building, are there other people in this building that maybe are more well-known? It just makes me nervous. I think you have nerve and gall trying to come here when we're so overloaded already. I think you're insulting to people things like bad-mouthing incinerators when you're going to have a boiler when the boiler's worse than the incinerator. I think you're presumptuous buying property before you have a permit, or knowing whether your neighbors want you or not. And the neighbors are horrified. And I think you're dishonest also in your application. We don't want you here. And we don't want to even talk about it anymore. We want you to withdraw this permit. Save them the trouble. Save them the trouble. At least think about it. Operating, I want to say something about operating within the law. That's what got us where we are today, in serious trouble. We're not saying you're not going to operate within the law, but we know how laws are set here in Louisiana.
Lesson.
Yeah.
This time. You'll have an opportunity after everyone's been given a chance to speak. Okay, I know, but... All right, the next speaker is Elizabeth Vance.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth D.A. Vance of 58135 Main Street, Plaquemine, Louisiana. I'm not being paid. I came directly here from work, and I didn't even have time to go home and change clothes. I am co-leader of Alliance Against Waste and Action to Restore the Environment, better known as AWARE. For the benefit of EPA and DEQ, my group is based in Iberville Parish, which is located about 15 miles southwest of East Baton Rouge Parish on the west bank of the Mississippi River. My home is in Plaquemine. The address claimed by Dow Chemical and Georgia Gulf, two well-known polluters, so famous that they make most of the list. My parish is also home to B.F. Goodrich, Ashland Chemical, Air Products, Sibagagi, Cosmore, RCI Americas, Pioneer Chlor-Alkali, United Texas Petroleum, Petro United Terminals, and Nordics, to name a few. Cohabitation, coexistence are difficult, to say the least, when the known or suspected medical conditions and disease states listed on material safety data sheets are daily realities. Two communities, Revealtown, adjacent to Georgia Gulf, and Morrisonville, bordering Dow, have been relocated. Their residents mean nothing more to these facilities than a few dollars well spent to avoid possible future liabilities. Will this community end up as another buyout program, or possibly will neighbors find themselves neighboring a Superfund site? AWARE was founded in March 1986. The concerns stated here tonight are issues that AWARE has repeatedly fought to have addressed over the past 7 years through numerous comments at public hearings and during public comment periods. The public notice about SFI so horrified AWARE that they asked to be an intervener in the DEQ adjudicatory process. AWARE also submitted a 4-page letter to DEQ Air Quality Division listing various problems with the requested air permit. I should not have to ask, but I want to be advised of the outcome of this public hearing, and I want to ask for another adjudicatory hearing. I want to state that I do not want SFI to be allowed to submit any additional data during the public comment period. If this happens, I charge DEQ to hold another public hearing and another public comment period. I also dare any other industry to even entertain ideas of operating any similar type of facility if SFI does not get this permit. SFI Formosa heard the people of St. John Parish and pulled its permit request. Roman Haas withdrew its bid to do a herbicide research project in North Iberville when citizens protested its attempt to infiltrate one of the only clean spots in the parish. I challenge you to pack your bags and leave. We don't want you here, period. I'm appalled that the 32 pages with 315 waste codes listed are not identified for citizens by name, nor are MSDSs provided for these numerous substances. This information needs to be supplied for the other 11 pages of more chemicals. I want the statement, and I quote, "Other waste codes will be added as they are included in the hazardous waste regulations," close quote, deleted from the draft permit. Enough is enough. Not only have the people of the state of Louisiana suffered from known health-related maladies associated with substances produced by Louisiana Chemical Association members, but the continuing saga of groundwater contamination and numerous air toxics violations continue to plague citizens. While expansions and new projects are rampant and industrial tax exemptions are still being given unquestioningly, no new jobs are surfacing. On the contrary, layoffs are the norm. When are the scales going to be tipped in favor of the people? Government of the people, by the people, and for the people seems to be a thing of the past. DEQ, I challenge you to revive our faith in this country and government as it was intended. Louisiana citizens taxes pay the salaries of DEQ personnel. DEQ, hear the voices of those taxpayers and deny SFI this permit. Set yourself in alignment with the goals and directives of the DEQ. Protect the health and the environment of the state of Louisiana. This is the People's Forum, and it's time for the people to prevail. DEQ, may God direct and guide you in this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ray Brent, and he'll be followed by Hazel Shakesnieder and G. Washington Ames Champs.
My name is Ray Brent. I'm a 10-year resident of East Iberville. I live at 4455 Highway 75. If you've ever driven down this road, where 141 connects to Highway 75 is about a 180-degree curve. You can't make that curve very well in a car, much less a blooming 18-wheeler. That curve has a speed limit of 40 miles per hour, and it hasn't been enforced since they paved the road. Cars come around that curve at 50 and 60 miles an hour, day in and day out. I pick my mailbox up once a week, and the cars run through my yard like it was a parking lot. And these guys over here don't do diddly about it. Now you got a church right across the street from there. If it's Sunday and then one of your 18-wheelers is coming in there and some wino comes through there and T-bones this thing in the rear, there's going to be a big explosion in my front yard. And believe me, Tennessee ain't going to be far enough away for you to be. There was a man here earlier this evening. I didn't get his name, but he lives on Drusilla Lane. He spoke for SFI. He said it's a good site because it's relatively isolated from a large urban community. Now this guy was a good representative of SFI. You've got to give him credit. He came in here, he made his spiel, and he left. And that's the same damn thing they're going to do. They're going to come in, make a spiel, and leave. How many people, have you driven to the site? Have you driven to the site? Well, you can't, you just sit there like a log. Have you driven to the site?
Sir, you're welcome to make comments into the record, and we'll respond in writing to all significant comments.
Well, I get that 15 seconds there. If you've ever driven down Highway 141, which parallels the river, and you've been in something larger than a Yugo, you'll notice that two pickup trucks cannot pass side by side on this road without one of them getting in the ditch. Now, they just worked on this levee out here for, I guess about a year now. And the gravel trucks that came off of that levee absolutely destroyed that road. And they only ran about 10 hours a day. Nowhere near 3,000 or so 18-wheeler loads in a year. Who's going to fix this road? Who's going to build a road to start with? You guys? Heck no. You ain't building no roads. You ain't even going to build a railroad track. It takes expertise to build a road in Louisiana. We don't have rock like Tennessee. There ain't nothing out there but sandy soil. Now, if you guys give these people a permit, then I want to apply for a permit too, because I have all the qualifications. I've dug fence posts in my backyard, so that qualifies me for a soil test right off the bat. I dug a swill ditch down the side of my property to let the water run off. Well, that's groundwater, isn't it? So therefore, I got as much expertise as these fellows got. Probably so. Now, my house was built in 1850. I've spent the last 10 years working on that house and that property to make a place for my family to live. You give them a permit, you're slapping me in the face, and I don't like to be slapped. It's not right. It's just not right. It's a damn shame is what it is. Boy, I just get so damn mad thinking about this, my knees are shaking. It just ain't right, folks. What you got here, some people come down and they said, well, we'll put in this little community, it's a bunch of ignorant Southerners. Don't know squat. They're poor, they got no education. But buddy, we together. We'll walk hand in hand through hell to stop your plant. Thank you.
The next speaker is Hazel Shakesnieder. Hazel Shakesnieder.
My name is Hazel Shakesnieder. I live at 5525 Highway 75, Carville, Louisiana. Can't hear me? I moved here about 40 years ago. When I first moved here in Carville, it was a lovely place. I can remember getting off the train, seeing all the cornfields and all the gardens growing. It was just beautiful. I saw the houses here that were built, the old country houses that didn't have paint on them. Every time I see a picture in the store now with an old country house that's not painted, I want to buy it. And I just love the place. And I'm so sorry to see what has happened to it. Well, we're surrounded by plants. We can't do anything about that. We have to live with these now. They're here, but we don't want any more. Mr. Etheridge and Mr. Hanson, please don't even consider your proposal to get the SFI here. We don't need you. We're drowning now in pollution. I heard one of the ladies mention the products that were so dangerous when you don't know how to handle them. And what is the track record of SFI? If she says gasoline is dangerous and those other products are dangerous that we can't handle them, how can SFI handle products that they don't know anything about? They're inexperienced, so we don't need that here either. We don't need them without a good track record bringing in hazardous waste in our community. Gascon stated that we need jobs that SFI will provide. Yes, we do need jobs. But from experience here, I know that we won't get them, especially the African Americans here. The percentage of jobs here that are given to that the African Americans hold here is less than 3% with the 10 plants that we have around here. Because this is a predominantly African American community, again, we have to deal with racism, this time environmental racism. DEQ, please keep SFI away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shakesnieder. The next speaker is G. Washington Ames Champ. Oh, all right. I didn't pull his card. I'm sorry. The next speaker will be Clarence Robertson, and he'll be Clarence Robinson. Is Mr. Robinson here? Okay. You can't hear me in the back? All right. The next person to speak would be Olivia Tucker. Ms. Tucker? I'm sorry, Olivia Lucker? Luckett? Okay. Is Ms. Luckett here? No. All right. The next speaker is Landra S. Jones. Ladre S. Jones. All right. The next speaker, Sandra Kelly.
These are all the residents.
Are any of them here that would like to speak? All right. The next speaker is Mary Alfred. Is Miss Alfred here? All right, the next speaker is Julia Alford. Is Miss Alford here? Julia Alford, she's going as well. Russell Reddit. Russell Reddit. All right, the next speaker, Charlotte Wilson. Is Miss Wilson here? All right, the next person to sign up is Kathleen Lincoln. Is Miss Lincoln here? All right.
My name is Kathleen Lincoln. My address is 5597 Point Claire Road, Colville, Louisiana. I was born and reared here 73 years ago. I have been a resident of Los Angeles for 47 years and have recently moved back to my home state to care for my mother, who is 96 years old and confined to a wheelchair. I have a heart condition and hope to be around a few years, but if SFI is granted a permit to bring in hazardous waste from around the country in my backyard, then we all can expect diseases of all kind and death. So SFI should be denied a permit to operate in the state of Louisiana. Under no circumstances, I repeat, should they be granted a permit to operate in the state of Louisiana.
Thank you, Ms. Lincoln. All right. The next speaker, Jerry Brown. Is Mr. Brown here? All right. Linda Black. Linda Black. All right.
My name is Linda Black. My address is 40170 Highway 942 in Darrow, Louisiana. That's on the River Road for those of you that don't know it. I'm not right next to any really bad polluting plants, but they're all over, and we all breathe the same air. Regardless of what you think you live next to, we all breathe the same air. The wind currents will carry the pollution to us. And for those of you that are not living in Louisiana when it floods, it will bring the pollution to you. People have said tonight that the water's going to flow down from Baton Rouge. It's not going to flow up that river. Stand in Bluff Swamp when it's flooding and tell me if you think the water's not mixing from here to Country Club of Louisiana, from the east to the west. That's what a wetlands is. That's what keeps it all going. The ecosystem in the wetlands thrives off of the flooding, the mixing of all the waters, and it's supposed to be nutrients in those waters that help mix. And when they settle all back down, that's what feeds all the flora and the fauna that's on the bottom of those wetlands. When you pollute even slightly that water, you damage, intentionally or otherwise, the very fragile ecosystem that is still pristinely to be seen and enjoyed and appreciated in the Bluff Swamp area. We have already in Louisiana destroyed much of what was supposed to be God's beautiful place by allowing consumers to need products that required the processing that we've invited into the Mississippi River. Up and down the river, the plants can move the goods. It's convenient. The times they put it in there, we weren't aware of what all it was going to do to our environment and our children and our wildlife. Now that we know, we in Louisiana, especially along the Mississippi River where it's so convenient to dump the processes, intend to fight to maintain what little quality of life we feel like we have left. When the hurricane hit Florida last year, those people were devastated. Those people were not strong, well-raised Cajun folks. We watched the devastation in Miami and we prepared. And when it hit us, we were ready. Within a week, 10 days, the entire state of Louisiana, taking much more damage than Florida did, Landmass-wise, that hurricane devastated much more of Louisiana than Florida ever thought about having done to them. I've lived on the Gulf Coast all my life. I went through Camille. My family went through Camille. I've been through Betsy. My father cleaned up after Audrey. I cleaned up after Andrew. I sat on my front porch and watched those winds at Andrew. You're dealing with a very strong people down here. We won't give up easily. We are not done. IT tried to land behind my house. I allowed Teresa Robert and her friends, Lean, many other people involved, to fight that fight for me, and they did a good job. It took them 10 years. The people who I work for put tens of thousands of dollars into the lawyer that helped fight that. We are a strong and united people here. You've got a cheap little piece of property that's convenient. I suggest you look for a cheaper piece of property, because this one's not going to be cheap when we're done with you. It feels good, it looks good, it makes sense in a lot of areas. I thoroughly understand the process you hope to put in. Find another place for it. That's not the place. Sandwich yourself between two very polluting plants and let them just put in a pipeline right to your place. We don't want any more 18-wheelers to explode with children on the interstate out there with your junk in it, with your drivers who don't pay attention. I have walked old people across my road year after year, 17 years. I have walked old people across the river road trying to get them to cross the levee to see the beautiful Mississippi River while the 18-wheelers barreled by us well over the speed limit, much less a safety zone with pedestrians. You're right there by the Hansen's Disease Center, a very historical, I'm into the history part of it, very historical and important part of that area of the river. The people that you saw here tonight, I believe you can see, are adamant about refusing to accept DEQ's streamlining process to get more waste into this state, into this location. This parish already has enough pollution. Whether you bring it in from out of state or out of parish, this parish doesn't want any more than they already have. They don't want it trucked, they don't want it trained, they don't want it boated, they don't want it by the shovel load. Leave it wherever it stayed, take your plant to their sites, and recycle, quote unquote, all the hazardous waste you like in another place, not there. If Nordics is doing well, fine, so be it. Let it stay. There's nothing we can do. We've already accepted them in here, thanks to lax regulations by DEQ and our illustrious governor. Again, we're not done. We won't quit. It'll be a long and hard fight. You are under the impression that these people are misinformed. Because misstatements are made, and I'm aware of the misstatements that are made, not every one of them, but I'm familiar with what's being misstated in this hearing. The public is not as up to date on every chemical that you plan to bring in. So when they make a mistake because they haven't gone through the lengthy explanation of all your chemicals, allow them that mistake, but understand that their heart says they don't want any more hazardous chemicals in their backyard. We are a sturdy and hardy people here, and when this community makes its mind to stand against you, 10 years with IT, trust me, we can stand against you. We have the resources, we have the strength, and we have the numbers. We live here not because it's convenient, not because it's cool, not because the weather's great and nothing ever goes wrong. We live here because we love it. We fight hard to live here. This is not the easiest state in the country to live in, but we do it because we love it. And when you love something way down into your gut, then you fight for it forever. Understand that while your facility may be a fine facility to operate, there may be a great use for it. Find yourself another location. These people don't want it. I don't even live here, and I don't want it coming down that bluff swamp area. Deny it all you like. When this floods, it will be everywhere. That pollution, whatever you put And I know you're not going to put any because you're going to be a perfect facility and you're not going to have any accidents. But we've lived with these plants and all the perfect regulations and all the written rules and all the DEQ checking and testing and all that stuff did not save us from being Cancer Alley. That's what we are. Now we have a fight to maintain a quality of life that we have fought for years for. We don't plan to give up easily. I recommend you find yourself another site and don't waste your money on lawyers and stuff, because these people and all the hundreds of people that were here before is only the beginning. Why? Because we've just been informed. We're just now finding out what's going on. When the word spreads really throughout the community, there will be much greater numbers. We will be here till much later at night, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning if we have to. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I got to work tomorrow. I still have dogs to walk when I get home. I'm not done with my day yet. I worked all day. I have a 7-day-a-week business. But I'm here, not because I live here. You're not in my backyard, but you are in my backyard. So I say to the Iberville residents, go get them. We did it in Ascension. You can do it here. And I don't want your leftovers in my backyard, so please do something and carry on. And DEQ, when shame was laid on you earlier today for mixing the ratio 50-50, for allowing the people who came in late to speak early and leave, that was unfair. This public hearing was called for by DEQ for the public to speak. The taxpayers who do pay your salary, everyone in your department's salary is paid by the taxpayers, including Kai Midbo. My daughter wanted to know who was paying DEQ. Now, initially, she wondered if SFI was. The sad news is we are.
Ms. Black, your 10 minutes is up.
Thank you very much.
But you'll have an opportunity to come back if you want to. Okay. The next speaker is Mr. Charles Ellis. What, sir? Right, sir.
My name is Charles Ellis. I live at 2240 Bayou Paul Lane in St. Gabriel. I've got one preliminary matter. Ms. Lauz, I would like to submit into the record of this hearing, by reference, all exhibits which are introduced into the record at the May 19th through 21st adjudicatory hearing by the Hardy birth lot interveners, which were objected to by either SFI or the DEQ. Is that appropriate?
You can make the statement, sir, into the administrative record, and it'll be addressed.
I would just like to state that SFI was allowed to introduce their permit application by reference into the adjudicatory hearing held on May 19th through the 21st, and that hearing had stricter evidentiary concerns than this hearing, according to DEQ, and therefore I think it would be appropriate for the materials that I just requested to be submitted into the hearing record of this hearing to be accepted and appropriately incorporated into this hearing record. Next, I would like to make a few statements about the site geology. There have been no site-specific soil borings, so we don't know exactly what the soil conditions are at the SFI facility site. However, SFI, in its recent materials submitted dated June 10th, 1993, relied upon the soil survey of Iberville Parish, Louisiana, which was compiled by the United States Department of Agriculture Soil Conservation Service in cooperation with the Louisiana Agricultural Experiment Station. I would like to have this entire document submitted into the record, and I would also like to read into the record certain portions of it. Now, SFI in the recently submitted materials has acknowledged that the soils at the site are sharky soils. We'll make reference to sheet number 37 of the soil survey of Iberville Parish. And note that at the rear, near Community Canal, that all of the soils are sharky soils. They're denoted by either the SC or SA on this sheet number. Now those soils are sharky soils, as I stated, and I would like to make reference to Table 8 of the soil survey of Iberville Parish. Sharky soils, which are denoted as either SA or SC, are shown under all categories for shallow excavations, dwellings without basements, small commercial buildings, which are defined elsewhere in the soil survey as being those below 3 stories, and local roads and streets, that for sharky soils, there are severe building limitations in all of these categories due to low strength and shrink swell capacity of the soils. Now, if we turn to page 35 of the soil survey, these terms are defined. Shrink swell is defined as the shrinking of soil when dry and the swelling when wet. Shrinking and swelling can damage roads, dams, building foundations, and other structures. Low strength is defined as inadequate strength for supporting loads. Page 22 of the soil survey notes that severe limitations on building development are limitations which indicate that one or more soil properties or site features are so unfavorable or difficult to overcome that a major increase in construction effort, special design, or intensive maintenance is required. For some soils rated severe, such costly measures may not be feasible. Now, I submit that with the total absence of any site-specific soil borings, and the only evidence being the soil survey of Iberville Parish showing severe limitations upon all of the categories for building on those soils, that for a facility that will be simultaneously storing 13 million gallons, or have a capacity for storing 13 million gallons of incompatible hazardous wastes in close proximity to hospitals, that it would be clearly, under the IT factors, appropriate to determine on any other soils that don't have these limitations, that any other site that does not have those building site limitations would be an alternative site that would provide greater protections to the environment. I would like to go ahead and to submit into the record the soil survey in its entirety. Now, as Mr. Hardy noted earlier, and by making reference to the recent materials supplied by SFI, which were received by DEQ on June 10th, 1993, which was entitled The Issues from the Adjudicatory Hearing, SFI has stated that the soils at the SFI site are not considered prime farmland. Mr. Hardy also made reference to a map from the U.S. Soil Conservation Service, which shows otherwise. I would like to submit into the record that map. As I stated, and as I believe it is stated in SFI's material, they state that due to inherent soil limitations or inherent properties of the soils, there are that the soils at the SFI site cannot be considered prime farmland. Here's the map that was compiled by the U.S. Soil Conservation Service. You'll note that Point Claire, right here, the entirety is indeed denoted as prime farmlands. That is a factor that is considered under the IT factors analysis in the questionnaire that was filled out by Supplemental Fuels Incorporated, and I would like to submit that into the record. One other thing I would like to note, or I have several other actually, but in regard to the transportation issue, the hazardous waste regulations do require that the site be accessed by roads that are capable of handling the demands of the facility and which are designed to avoid sharp turns and traffic hazards. Highway 141, it was acknowledged during the adjudicatory hearing, was as I believe Mr. Etheridge might have stated, not quite up to par. I believe all parties to that hearing acknowledged that the road without some type of work would not be able to handle the demands of the facility. Now, SFI, in its recent materials, which were received by DEQ on June 10th, has stated that they may repair Highway 141. I believe that a repair of Highway 141 to bring it up to full standard should be a permit condition and not just a promise that is included in some materials that are not actually binding on SFI. It should be a permit condition that they bring the road up to standard to allow it to handle the demands of the facility. Finally, I know that environmental equity or environmental justice has been raised as an issue at this hearing several times. Ms. Robinson presented some factual data, which I think is very important and enlightening. And I would like to state to the department that you have repeatedly utilized as an excuse for the expedited processing of SFI's permitting your Section 3011 grant commitments. The department has accepted under Section 3011 of the Solid Waste Disposal Act grant funds to administer its hazardous waste permitting program. And along with these funds, you have accepted certain responsibilities to the public. Under 42 USC 2000D, no person may be discriminated against on the basis of race under federally financed programs. I would direct the department specifically to 40 CFR 7.35, which implements the mandates of 42 USC 2000D. This provision prohibits the implementation or administering of a federally assisted program in a manner that has discriminatory effect. Intent is not part of prohibition. Ms. Robinson has shown with the information that she has submitted that discriminatory effect is present, and that permitting of SFI would increase this discriminatory effect. DEQ, you are put on notice of your duties under the law, which duties you have accepted along with the Section 3011 grant funds. In SFI, you have heard from Mr. Eames of the NAACP that they will enter this fray, and I believe that the department's dereliction of its duties under 40 CFR 7.35, if a permit is granted, will result.
Mr. Ellis, it's time.
Sure.
But you're welcome to come back and you can finish your sentence, sir.
Okay. That 40 CFR 7.35 will be violated if this department issues a permit to SFI, knowing of the racial composition of the community.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. The next speaker is Mr. Buddy Lanedece. Buddy Lanedece.
Buddy Lanedece, St. Gabriel, Louisiana, Police Bureau of Iberville Parish. I'm just glad my number wasn't 100. You know, I was coming in tonight and I noticed in the back there's a big car, and it's got about 25 or 30 different organizations, state groups, civic groups, congressmen, senators, all opposed to this one facility, no hazardous waste. Being a police jury, I found it unfair that the Iberville Parish Police Jury was not given adequate notice of this facility. Therefore, on behalf of the police jury, I am requesting that another adjudicatory hearing be held to discuss all the supplements and modifications, that SFI have submitted to the DEQ after the original 709 hearing. I'm requesting this hearing to have that information and all other material reviewed through the same process. Thank you very much.
All right, the next speaker is Mr. Vernon Taylor. Is Mr. Taylor here? Bernard Taylor. All right. Is Miss Allene Ambo here? Ambo? Ambo? Allene Ambo? She's here? All right.
My name is Allene Ambo. I reside at 4942 Highway 75 in St. Gabriel, Louisiana. I would like the record to show that I oppose to the SFI facility located on Point Claire Road in St. Gabriel. As a citizen of East Iberville, I am deeply concerned about our environment. What would be the outcome if we as citizens do not take a stand for our rights? Is it not too much to ask for clean air to breathe? Pollution of our air, water, and soil is a major concern, not only for our community, but for all the citizens of Louisiana. Louisiana is being made the chemical industry's toilet. The nation brings all of its hazardous waste to Louisiana to dump it into our soils and waters and pollute the air. We don't have to wonder why Louisiana have a higher rate of cancer than any other state in the nation. We, the citizens of East Iberville, take a firm stand against SFI. We reject the idea of you transporting hazardous waste product into our community. Enough is enough. We are claiming victory over SFI. We know from experience that we cannot trust DEQ or the government for supporting us in this matter. We must put our trust and belief in God. We citizens of East Iberville must unite in prayer, and we will be victorious in this fight. We shall overcome. We should have a wholesome, clean, safe environment for our children and ourselves to live in. SFI, enough is enough.
All right. The next speaker would be Michael Ambo.
My name is Michael Ambo, and I live at 4942 Highway 75 in St. Gabriel. And I want to go on record this evening, which is now Saturday the 7th, 1993, saying that I am opposed to the locating, the construction, and any type of operation of this proposed SFI facility here in our community of St. Gabriel and anywhere else in the community of East Iberville. I want you to know that this community has been in existence for over 225 years, and over the course of the years, some of our citizens have enjoyed a reasonable quality of life, and then again, some of our citizens have not enjoyed a reasonable quality of life with the industry that we already have here in the community over the years. So they do not call this area cancer alley for nothing. We already have and support more than our fair share of industry in our community of East Iberville, and we cannot afford to have another facility to be located in the midst of our community, and especially a hazardous waste facility that will only serve to deal in the death, destruction, and ultimately the demise of our very own community. Statistics in our community has already shown us that the construction and operation of this hazardous waste facility will not be economically beneficial, nor will it provide or have a positive effect in the employment of our citizens of East Iberville community. Unemployment is already very, very high, and the economic structure that is provided to our citizens with what we already have is already very, very low. So based on these statistics alone and what SFI has proposed to offer our community in the way of employment and economic benefits, these proposals do not, and I repeat again, do not outweigh the death of our citizens, does not outweigh the destruction of our environment and our economy, and once again I say does not outweigh the ultimate demise of our community, in which all of our citizens love so dearly. This is our home, and of course, we always love home. So we say to Governor Edwards, so we say to DEQ, and to SFI, and its owners, we are tired of outside entities and people coming into our community and controlling the economics, political, and social structure of our community, and in some cases, our very own mind. This type of rape and racism of our community has to stop. Our property value is already low. By adding this facility, but what is already here will further add to the devaluing of our property and our community in which we live. We have elderly citizens in our community who cannot afford to move in the event of the demise of our community. So tell us, DEQ, where can we go with so little and start over again? So we say to you again, Governor Edwards, and we say to you, DEQ, and we say to the management of SFI, and especially the owners of SFI, which is based in Memphis, Tennessee, we do not want, nor do we need your death and destruction that you're trying to sell us, and by influencing with every means necessary some citizen in this great state, and also some of the citizens in this great and beautiful community of ours who do not have the community nor its citizens at heart, so that you, SFI, can locate and operate your hazardous waste facility in the confines of our community and deal in death, destruction, and the demise of our community. This must not happen, and by whatever means necessary, this will not happen to our community. It has happened to other communities throughout this state. So we say to you, SFI, go back to Memphis, Tennessee, and go to your governor and to your DEQ in your state and propose to your state and to your community and to your elected officials and state agency and obtain the necessary permit to build this hazardous waste facility in your community and your backyard. And let's see what kind of response that you will get from the citizens of your state and more so the citizens of your community. I guarantee you the response will be the same as ours, no SFI. So we do not want, nor do we need SFI death and destruction in our community. We already have enough. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker would be Mr. Rick Summers. No, but they go on.
Thank you. I'm Rick Summers. I live at 327 Bedford Avenue in Baton Rouge, and I'm the State Director of Citizen Action of Louisiana, so I'm representing our members across the state. I just want to echo some of the earlier comments about SFI's insistence that somehow mixing toxic poisons with fuel is good for the community because it will create a commercial market for hazardous waste. That's been their only rap. That's the way they're trying to sell this thing to us. And it's true that this facility would expand the market for hazardous waste, but I can't begin to understand how that might be a good idea. After all, when you expand the market for something, people tend to produce more of it. It's basic economics. And that's not the message that we want to send to manufacturers in this state and around the country. We don't want to encourage people to produce more toxic waste. Pollution prevention is the future. Source reduction is where it's at. And that's the message that we want to send. When the people that generate toxic waste come to realize that communities won't accept their garbage in their backyard, here or anywhere, then they may begin to get serious about doing something real about reducing the amount of toxic waste they generate in the first place. So we won't accept this facility here or anywhere. Poison is poison, and enough is enough. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker would be Mr. William A. Fontenot.
Thank you. My name is William A. Fontenot, and I reside at 632 Dreher Avenue, that's D-R-E-H-R, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I am an employee of the Louisiana Attorney General's office, but I am here tonight speaking as an individual and a resident of Louisiana for 50 years. And the only reason I got up tonight is because several statements were made concerning the what's called fate and transport of or ultimate disposal of the waste that would be generated by this facility or processed and sent to other facilities. In 1983, I worked with the Science Advisory Board to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency on a study that they were doing on the ocean incineration of hazardous waste. And as a result of my work with a couple of members of that Science Advisory Board, they expanded their study to look at land-based incinerators. And they went out and found that we basically didn't know a whole lot about what really happened with incinerators. There were no studies on what kinds of materials might be coming out of incinerators, where it might be ending up, how it might be affecting people and the environment around commercial or on-site hazardous waste incinerators. The same types of studies have been asked for, and what they said in the Science Advisory Committee report to EPA in 1984 was that there were, I think, 13 or 14 major points that we really don't know what's going on. We don't know what kinds of materials might be coming out of the stack because they're not completely burned, or what kinds of new materials might be created once these wastes leave the stack, products of incomplete combustion and recombinations of chemicals. And it's important in this point because the documents which have been submitted by SFI, which I hope are part of the decision-making process here, and that is their response to the IT questions. I hope we're not only discussing the permit applications, but the document that was submitted, and I would request that the DEQ go back and look at that document because they make at least two references to the fact that once this material is shipped out of Louisiana, it will go to cement kilns and industrial boilers where it will be totally destroyed. I don't believe there's any scientific evidence anywhere in the United States that can verify that waste that goes into cement kilns and industrial boilers is totally destroyed. In fact, the Department of Environmental Quality, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, the Department of Health and Human Resources are presently working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and their counterparts in the state of Arkansas looking for the source of mercury in the Ouachita and other rivers in North Louisiana and South Arkansas. The suspected sources of that mercury, and the reason I bring this up is because the suspected sources are major cement kilns in the state of Arkansas, and it is the air emissions from those cement kilns which have a fairly large volume of mercury in their permits, which would allow them to discharge large quantities of mercury into the air of Arkansas, where supposedly waste from SFI might end up and become part of that airborne material. Coal-fired power plants in Arkansas. The three hazardous waste incinerators at El Dorado, Arkansas. It is conceivable that material from this facility might end up in El Dorado at the ENSCO incinerators, or from the mercury flow meters from natural gas pipelines and natural gas wells. The natural gas industry is discounting the natural gas flow meters, saying it's not a source of the mercury in the Ouachita and other rivers in Arkansas and Louisiana. If that's the case, then it would have to be that mercury, which is presently at levels that are considered to be unsafe to eat the fish in the Ouachita. That mercury is being generated by either the cement kilns, which in their permits can discharge mercury, the incinerators at El Dorado, or coal-burning power plants. And cement kilns are a very high candidate, according to officials that I have spoken to with the Department of Environmental Quality and several other agencies. So your own agency, the DEQ, has identified cement kilns as possible sources of major contamination from waste that is being burned in Arkansas and being transported to the Ouachita River. So I think that in the evaluation of this permit application, you have to consider as part of the IT question, the ultimate fate of whatever waste may be burned and where it will be burned and where it may settle out. Because in fact, if we are shipping waste to Arkansas and it is ending up in the fish and the water in Louisiana, it is not a safe way to ultimately dispose of this kind of waste. I think we need to have very clear information about the levels of mercury and other materials that would pass through any kind of air filtration system if it is burned in the cement kiln. They don't have a whole lot of air filtrations in cement kilns, and we need to know exactly what kind of materials might make it out of that cement kiln and back into Louisiana, either in the water, fish, or the air. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. The next speaker is Ms. Ramona Stevens.
My name is Ramona Stevens, and I live at 16326 Leslie Lane, Prairieville. That's Ascension Parish, which is only about 10 to 15 miles from this proposed facility, and that's traveling by the road. The chemicals aren't going to do that. One of the things that has come to my attention in the waste that SFI will not handle on site, they state that they will not handle PCB waste. I don't know if the residents realize it, but PCB waste is classified as non-PCB oil if it contains under 50 parts per million PCBs. So you do have the potential for having some PCBs at this facility. I'd also like an answer to a question about the 410-day rule. I realize you cannot answer questions right now. I'd like this in writing. I sat on the committee that wrote the 410-day rules and regs. I would like to know, since when did Louisiana start regulating according to statute and not the rules and regs that were promulgated to go with that statute? We've never done this before. If that is the case, SFI should have public noticed this completeness review before we ever got to the technical review. We would have known about this facility. The 410-day rule does not apply to this permit application. This permit application was submitted before the rules were promulgated and before they were put in the Federal Register. Every other rule and reg that Louisiana has done, we have not grandfathered in applications. Why are you starting now with SFI? What in the world is going on? We were told during those regs hearings they would be final once they were published in the Federal Register. We would start accepting applications and putting a time limit on them of 410 days once it went through the Federal Register. Why has this permit been pushed down our throats and we have been hurried through adjudication, public hearing, and everything else, and you're blaming it on the 410-day rule? It doesn't qualify.
Okay. All right. That is the list of speakers that have signed up to speak. But is there anyone else that has not been given at least one opportunity to speak? Has anyone not been given an opportunity to speak for the first 10 minutes? Yes. Okay, who has not been given up? All right. If there's anyone else besides this gentleman that's coming to the microphone, would you mind stepping to the rear and signing one of these registration forms saying that you're going to register? And I'm going to ask you, sir, to do the same when you finish speaking.
I have registered, and I yielded earlier to my son.
You're
Gerald Barrio.
All right,
I'm
sir.
from 59132 Maple Street, Plaquemine, Louisiana,
sir. Go ahead.
70764.
Okay, sir.
I just want to go on record as opposing the issuance of a permit to SFI, mainly for reasons that have been just dished out to you all night long. Mainly very selfish reasons because of the proximity of this proposed site to my son's property. Now, this is my main reason. However, I deal with chemicals, and I can't see how the importation of these unknown mixtures of chemicals can be properly handled. These mixtures are going to vary from day to day, maybe even from hour to hour. They'll be shipped in by all sorts of ways, I'm sure, and these have all been addressed. These things are going to be, just by their very nature, hazardous waste or toxic, corrosive, carcinogenic, flammable, you name it. This is a major problem for this community if it's allowed to come to fruition. So I would want to go on record once again in opposition to this. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Barrio. All right, I see some individuals in the back are possibly registering to speak. No? All right. You do have one. Is there anyone that has not gotten the opportunity to speak at least once for 10 minutes? Is there anyone? I'd appreciate if y'all would register in the back. All right, the next speaker is Alex Robbison.
Yes, my name is Alex Robbison. I live at 3690 Evergreen Drive, St. Gabriel, Louisiana. It's very simple. I'm in the armed forces, serving Desert Storm, and many of us are serving Vietnam War, where the government told us that agents on were not homeless. We know that's a lie to this day. In Desert Storm, we lived in the oil fires. They told us that we're not homeless. That's a lie to this day. Many are suffering from the effect of that. Now the government is telling the SFI we're not homeless. I'm here to tell you that that's a lie also. Anytime you put any kind of chemical plant back in your own backyard, you're going to have some residue that's going to affect us. As you now know, we are Cancer Alley. In Cancer Valley, we have a lot of birth defects, and a lot of people, babies are dying from the chemical plants now. It's very simple. If you put garbage in your backyard, you'll get upset. We don't want the garbage in our backyard, so please don't bring it to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, is there anyone that would like to speak that has not been given at least one opportunity to speak? Is there anyone in the audience who has not spoken that would like an opportunity to speak for the first time? All right. Now, what I propose to do is the hearing will continue for any individual that would like to make additional comments that has already spoken. We'll have take a 15-minute break, and y'all can go in the back and sign up, and we'll start calling, and you will have unlimited time to make your comments. So it is 2 o'clock at this time. We will break till 2:15. Thank you.
Yes. You zooming on it? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. We're back at the gym. It's 2 o'clock. The spirits, I gotta tell you, the spirits are magnificent up here. People are outstandingly still continuing this tremendous emotions of feelings and facts against this cancerous facility coming to this wonderful, wonderful community. As you can tell in the background, we still have the guy from PBS. I gotta tell you, that man must be running on the bunny energizer or something. Up here, we're dead, doggy tired, but the man, I bet that camera weighs a couple pounds, and that man's going around with it on his shoulder. If you have noticed lately, the wonderful young lady up there on the proceedings, which I think has run to the ladies' room, has changed his tone of voice quite a bit. My God, golly, golly, is she being a nice gal or what? Gave us a little break. As you can see, her desk is quite clean as fast, letting anybody that wants to speak to speak. What a spirit, ladies and gentlemen. Is the DEQ body of the people or what? We're really, really surprised. And, you know, what can we say? You know, we do pay her salary. Well, I guess that's all I gotta say for now. It's 2:05 or so. Great turnout, great people out here. Gerald Stevens out there. We gotta run, we gotta cut. Yes, I gotta go, but hey, I'll be in touch with you up here from East Iberville Parish. SFI hearing, 2 o'clock, Saturday.